Welcome to another episode of What is Hashimoto's with Dr. Martin Rutherford. To find out more on any of our topics, or for information on scheduling a consultation with Dr. Rutherford, please visit us at whatishashimotos.com. And now, here's Dr. Rutherford.
So Hashimoto's, what is the root cause? So you have about 6 hours that you want to hear about this because it's pretty interesting. Hashimoto's is something, I'm treating a different patient population I was treating 40 years ago. And 40 years ago, you did put somebody on a diet, they got better. You gave them supplements, they got better. As a chiropractor, you adjusted them, they got better. Things have changed. Things have changed a lot. We're dealing with an enormous explosion of autoimmunity, and it's interesting as to the different theories out there as to how these things have come about. I kind of embrace the fact that it's kind of an evolution of society. Anything that creates an immune response can attack you, and then they could attack you and cause rheumatoid arthritis, Sjogren's, lupus, Hashimoto's. And my mother. So my mother. This is back in the 50s and early 60s. She had her thyroid taken out. My aunt had her thyroid taken out. My grandmother had a goiter. Maybe they had Hashimoto's. I don't know how widespread Hashimoto's was at that time. Hashimoto was a guy who in 1902 said all thyroid problems outside of Graves was autoimmune. And it turns out the Hashimoto was Dr. Hashimoto was probably correct. So she probably had it back then, but back then, even though it was post-war, life was a little bit slower, stress was a little bit lower, in a sense that we weren't as rushed back then. Everyone went to church on Sundays. Everything was closed on Saturday afternoon and all day Sunday. There wasn't this freneticness of gotta work all the time. You get done at 5 o'clock, go home and relax. So, that started to evolve. Medications started to become very popular about then. And medications do a lot to damage thyroid function. So a lot of these people, people have had thyroid throughout history, but now you have people with thyroid problems that are now genetically being passed on to their offspring. I use the example of if you are a female and you have a mom and a sister and a daughter that's alive, there's an awfully strong chance today that 2 out of 3 of them are going to get it. For sure, one is going to get it. So it passes on this genetic propensity. And as my lifetime has gone on, there have been more and more and more attacks where we have 700 million pounds or tons of chemicals that are produced every year. Only 1,700 of them have been tested for toxicity. Those chemicals cause inflammation. Those flare up immunity. We have all the modified foods. We have the standard American diet, which is sugar, salt, and nitrates and MSG. All these things create inflammatory processes. We drink inflammatory stuff by drinking out of these plastic bottles. If the plastic bottles have been heated up, they create a toxicity of the water that you're drinking. We can go on forever. All food sensitivities flare up. So we're stressed. We have all these toxins. We're breaking down. We're getting a leaky gut. Half of the drugs that are out there will cause imbalances in the immune response. The classic take an aspirin a day is like crazy. It totally annihilates the inside of your gut and your intestines, which is where 70% of your immune system is. So it just feels because this is how we unpeel the onion of autoimmunity. And so I could say gluten. I've said it in one of these presentations that gluten actually can be considered a cause of Hashimoto's because gluten is difficult to break down, and it has these little metabolites on them that in a very weird way actually look like metabolites that are on your thyroid. And so if you eat gluten and it causes the immune system in your intestines to react, that immune system then looks around and sees your thyroid has metabolites on it look exactly like gluten. That attacks your thyroid. So I think there's no one cause. Okay, in essence, I think it's a buildup of I mean, not enough sleep. I mean, when you don't sleep, you become inflamed. When you overexercise, exercise. But today it's got to be either no exercise or we exercise until we drop, and people are doing marathons and triathlons. These people come into me, they're sick. Their cells have been super oxidized from too much damage to inflammation from too much working out and stuff. That can do it. So it's just that we're just living a whole different world right now. We're not going to sleep. We're watching television late into the night. We get up. We eat the wrong foods. We eat too much sugar. We smell. We ingest. We inhale toxicities. We drink toxicities. We're around toxicities. We spray toxicities on us. We wipe them on our face I mean, these are things I look at on everybody's intake form to see, like, okay, what are landmines here? What are the things that are flaring up autoimmunity in this particular case? So I don't think there's one cause. I don't think there'll be found to be one cause. I think thyroid's been there all the time. I think people have Hashimoto's all the time, but it was never a big deal until I think maybe the 50s and 60s and 70s, and now, again, like I said, we're treating an entirely different patient population than we were before. And so when I say I think it's a societal evolution, a lifestyle change, those are all the things that I'm referring to. So if there's anything other than that, I'm not aware of it. And those are the entities that in my mind, I'm always looking for in that patient's history to be able to correct that aspect of their history, to get their immune system under response, and thus have the inflammatory responses to the thyroid that are causing anxiety and insomnia and panic attacks and night sweats and I can't lose weight, to get those under control. So cause is that. I mean, that's what I think it is. So until tomorrow, that's what I think the cause is, if you want to call it that. Root cause, if you want to call it that.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of What is Hashimoto's? To find out more on any of our topics, or for information on scheduling a consultation with Dr. Rutherford, please visit us at whatishashimotos.com.